In a dramatic late-night move that sent shockwaves through legal and political circles, the Supreme Court ordered the Trump administration to halt the deportation of a group of Venezuelan migrants. The decision came unexpectedly, just as the migrants were preparing for imminent removal, and it immediately changed the course of their fate. The order itself was brief but carried immense weight, freezing the planned removals and granting the migrants a critical window to continue their legal fight. For many, it was a rare and powerful example of the court stepping in at the 11th hour to protect due process. This intervention put the court directly at odds with the administration's aggressive immigration policies, setting up a major constitutional showdown that would test the limits of executive power and judicial oversight. The affected migrants were part of a group challenging their removal, and the court's action gave them a crucial pause. For these individuals and their families, the order was more than a legal technicality. It was a moment of hope in an otherwise dire situation. Issued outside normal hours, the order signaled both urgency and a sense that the justices recognized a serious legal issue at stake. The late-night timing underscored the gravity of the matter and the court's willingness to act swiftly when fundamental rights are on the line. For the migrants, it was a lifeline, ensuring their voices would be heard before any final action. Families embraced outside the courthouse, overwhelmed with relief and gratitude for the unexpected reprieve. The Supreme Court's move shifted the case from a desperate lower court plea to a high-stakes drama on the nation's biggest judicial stage. Suddenly, the fate of these migrants became a national story, drawing attention from media, advocates, and lawmakers alike. The timing and directness of the order caught legal experts and the public off guard. Many questioned what prompted the justices to act so quickly, and what it might mean for future immigration cases. The court's intervention was a pivotal moment, pausing deportations and focusing national attention on the case. News outlets scrambled to cover the story, and the public watched closely as the legal battle unfolded. The legal battle was far from over, but the court's decision ensured due process would not be bypassed. The justices made it clear that even in contentious times, the rule of law must prevail. Now the entire country was watching as the highest court took center stage, and the outcome of this case would have lasting implications for immigration policy and the balance of power in America. The Supreme Court's decision was a 7-2 vote, showing rare consensus across ideological lines. Chief Justice Roberts and Justices Kavanaugh, Gorsuch, and Barrett joined the three liberal justices to halt the deportations. Justices Thomas and Alito dissented, favoring the administration's push for swift removals. The case was brought by the ACLU, arguing the migrants' due process rights were being violated by rush deportations. The Trump administration, represented by the Department of Justice, insisted on its authority to enforce immigration laws without court interference. This direct clash between executive power and judicial oversight set the stage for the Supreme Court's dramatic intervention. The broad majority sent a clear message: fundamental rights and judicial authority must be respected. The Supreme Court's intervention in this case was highly unusual, and it immediately drew national attention. Typically, the court waits for the lower courts to fully consider a case, allowing the legal process to unfold step by step. But in this instance, the justices stepped in before the Fifth Circuit had even issued its own decision, breaking with tradition and established procedure. This rare and abrupt move signaled that the justices believed there was a risk of immediate and irreparable harm so pressing that it couldn't wait for the usual slower process to play out. The sense of urgency was palpable, both inside and outside the courthouse. By granting a stay before the appeal was even decided, the court showed a clear lack of confidence in the normal pace of justice, suggesting that waiting could have serious consequences. The decision was made with remarkable speed, relying on emergency filings and written arguments submitted in haste. There were no full briefings, no oral arguments, and little time for the usual deliberation. This kind of shadow docket action is extraordinary, especially when it results in halting the actions of the executive branch so directly and so suddenly. It's a tool the court uses sparingly, and only in the most urgent circumstances. The majority of the justices, including several of the court's conservative members, chose to set aside their usual procedural caution. This decision underscored just how grave and significant they believed the situation to be. In this case, the method of the ruling was just as significant as the outcome itself. By acting so quickly and decisively, the court asserted its authority in a direct and unmistakable way, sending a powerful message about its role in the nation's legal system. Legal experts across the country called the move earth-shattering for its speed, its boldness, and its willingness to disrupt the normal judicial process in the face of what the justices saw as an emergency. Legal experts immediately recognized this as a landmark moment for constitutional democracy. The 7-2 majority, including Trump appointees, showed the administration's actions crossed a constitutional line. The core issue was due process, the guarantee that no one is deprived of liberty without fair procedures. The court's intervention was a powerful defense of this principle, declaring that policy goals can't override fundamental rights. The ruling also reinforced the judiciary's role as a co-equal branch, demanding its orders be respected. By acting decisively, the justices protected both individual rights and the court's own legitimacy. The decision was a clear stand against executive overreach, upholding the rule of law. The Supreme Court's strong reaction can be traced to the recent Abrego-Garcia case. In that case, the administration appeared to defy a federal court order, undermining its credibility with the justices. This defiance likely convinced the court that immediate, forceful intervention was necessary in the Venezuelan case. The justices feared that without a strong order, the administration might ignore future rulings, making them meaningless. The Abrego-Garcia incident served as a warning, prompting the court to act preemptively to protect judicial authority. The 7-2 decision drew a firm line, demanding respect for the rule of law. The Venezuelan migrant case raises a troubling question. What if a president openly defies a Supreme Court order? This scenario, while rare, strikes at the very heart of American democracy and the separation of powers. The Supreme Court is often seen as the final word on constitutional issues, but its authority is not self-enforcing. The judiciary relies on the executive branch to carry out its rulings. If the president refuses, the rule of law itself is threatened. Without executive enforcement, even the most carefully reasoned court decisions can become meaningless, undermining public trust in the legal system. The court has limited enforcement tools. Its power depends almost entirely on the willingness of the executive to comply. The justices cannot send marshals to enforce their will against a defiant president. History offers warnings. President Andrew Jackson's famous defiance of a Supreme Court order in the 1830s showed how fragile the system can be when a president refuses to act. His actions weakened the authority of the court and set a dangerous precedent. In contrast, President Nixon's compliance during the Watergate scandal, when he turned over tapes after a Supreme Court order, upheld the rule of law and demonstrated the strength of constitutional checks and balances. If a modern president chose open defiance, impeachment would be the ultimate constitutional remedy. Congress has the authority to hold the president accountable for failing to uphold the law. Congress holds the power to remove a president for high crimes and misdemeanors, and ignoring a Supreme Court order would almost certainly qualify as a grave abuse of power. Such an act would likely trigger a constitutional crisis, forcing lawmakers to act to preserve the balance of power. The legislative branch is the final check on a lawless president, ensuring that no one is above the law, not even the commander-in-chief. The stakes are enormous. Defiance would push the nation into a true constitutional crisis, testing the resilience of American democracy and the strength of its institutions. The system depends on each branch respecting the other's authority. Only by honoring this delicate balance can the nation avoid chaos and maintain the rule of law. The Supreme Court's order was a test of that balance, a reminder that democracy is only as strong as our commitment to its principles. The Supreme Court's 7-2 ruling was more than an immigration decision. It was a statement about judicial authority. By acting decisively, the justices drew a clear line. The executive branch has limits, and the judiciary will enforce them. The majority included Trump's own appointees, showing this was not a partisan move, but a defense of constitutional structure. The court was protecting its institutional relevance and the rule of law. The decision responded to executive actions that challenged legal norms and judicial authority. The justices made clear the judiciary will not be sidelined or ignored. This precedent warns future administrations. The court will act to counter executive overreach. The ruling reinforced the courts as ultimate guardians of the Constitution. The Supreme Court's decision matters to everyone. It's about the principles that underpin American democracy. The ruling affirmed that due process is a constitutional command, not a suggestion, and that the judiciary must enforce it. The 7-2 decision acts as a vital check on executive power, reminding all that government actions are subject to judicial review. This helps maintain the balance that protects our freedoms. The broad majority bolsters public trust in the court as an institution above politics. The case is a lesson in the fragility and resilience of democratic norms. The Supreme Court's order was a moment of institutional courage, defending rights and the rule of law. It's a sign that, even under pressure, the system of checks and balances can still function as intended.